Thank you, Mr. Magland. 6:39, and that concludes finance.
Ordinance amending Part 13 Building Code Codified Ordinance in the City of Canton, additional chapter 1353 foreclosed properties and buildings.
Mr. Chairman,
Oh, man, okay, safety director, take it away.
this change was brought forward by the chief building official. I invited her to attend tonight for further clarification if council sees it necessary. She works with this on a daily basis, so I'll refer to her.
Okay, Angela, would you like to?
Yes, this first amendment was brought forth by councilpersons in that we need to register those people who are foreclosed upon and make the people who are have foreclosed on properties registered.
Okay, so this is just a registry. Fisher, would you like that?
Yeah, the original legislation, this is actually something that's been modeled on some other cities, Springfield, Massachusetts, Chicago, and numerous others. And over the course of the past year, we kind of tried to fine-tune this to fit for Canton. In addition to the registry, what the real main thing that it does is it creates what is considered a responsible party after a lien is exercised. So long story short, when your house gets foreclosed, the banks are typically not putting them in their own name. They're leaving them in the name of the person who had lived there. So when we go to try to enforce, the banks haven't broken any laws. It has the person who's no longer allowed on the property is the one that we have to go enforce it on. What this does is, in addition to requiring them to register it with us, it requires a maintenance bond be placed on it so that we're not using taxpayer money for lawn mowing up through and including demolition. But then beyond that, it does create what is modeled on those other cities, which is a responsible party. So now if our prosecutor's office, which we have many cases there now that we can't do anything about in a lot of cases, we have something on our books that said, it's not just, John Doe that is responsible for this. It's, XYZ Bank who's now responsible for maintaining this property. And again, like I said, it's wordy and because it touches a lot of different sections of code, but I think at the end of the day, we've got a serious vacant housing problem, and a lot of it has to do, in my opinion, when we see bank-owned properties, and we have no recourse against them right now. The only thing we're doing is using taxpayer money.
Any questions? Member Serrano?
I either ask you a question or the law director. Is this what key that we can really literally go after the bank? Because everybody's in their own section.
Director?
Thank you. Member Sorelli, Mr. Chairman, members of council. Yes, it has some teeth, but they're only as strong as our enforcement arms. First line of defense is the chief building official and our building department, trying to ensure with our help that the people we're going after are properly registered or not registered, that they have properly put up a bond or not put up a bond, that we can abate or not abate their nuisance. There are more teeth, though, for abatement and for nuisance abatement. So again, it depends. As you know, we have been in contact with the local courts trying to get them to pass in the rules with which banks speed up their changing over of foreclosures, especially in the areas of auction. So yes, I applaud Mr. Fisher and the other members of council who brought this to us. It is indeed highly beneficial. We'll find out in practice how so. Again, because it's new, we'll do the best we can with it. If amendments become necessary, we'll bring those to you to make sure that it is working the way you hoped it would work when you sponsored it and brought it before your co-members of council.
Angela, would you like to respond to that? You said that can you enforce this ordinance?
We can enforce any rule that whether it goes through the courts or not when it comes to prosecution.
or criminal? Law Director?
Essentially civil. We have powers to abate now. This gives us additional language and teeth, to use your word, with which to try to hook them into getting them in civil court. Criminal penalties are more difficult. As you all know, someone who brought to my attention a housing court where a judge got very angry and very frustrated with the amount of decrepit, foreclosed homes and others in his city, and held corporate officials criminally liable in absentia, meaning while they weren't even in the court's jurisdiction, somewhere else. He was shot down by the Ohio Supreme Court ultimately, but everybody gave at a judge's for trying. This is in that vein. This is at a council member ordinance. But again, we'll try to work with you on it. I can't guarantee. Yeah, we'll do what we can. Yeah, we'll do what we can. Yeah.
Is there like a penalty or incentives that will make them move forward?
Well, there's huge, Kevin, you remember Fisher, huge monetary
Yeah,
stakes here.
the idea behind this is that, we, again, the law director, said is that essentially you can't go after these guys criminally. You have to go after them by hitting them where it matters, which is, for banks, what matters more than anything else is money. And that's, and to get back to the law director's point, if there was anything easy or silver bullet, then it would be done. I don't expect that we pass this and suddenly we're not going to have a vacant housing problem in the city. But what it does, I think, do is give us the ability to now, rather than going after people that are essentially judgment proof, because once you've been foreclosed on upon a house, it's a pretty good bet that you don't have the money to pay what we're going after to try to get. The way I see it, not doing on a soapbox, is that these guys get to borrow taxpayer money at 0%, loan it back at huge money, get $700 billion in bailouts. Why should we bail them out again every time we mow a lawn or tear down a house?
Member Fisher, you had mentioned penalty. It's $10,000 bond, right?
$10,000 bond, and then there are some stiff penalties that give the chief building official and the prosecutor's office. It gives the up to numbers in different cases. They can go up to $300 a day. They can go up to $500 a day, depending on how grievous. If you have banks that own 300 houses and just refuse to comply, they can get as aggressive as they'd like to get. So,
Any other questions? Safety Director, do you have something?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to thank Mr. Fisher for his efforts. I know he worked with our CBO, also our law department. Spent a lot of time researching. We're really not inventing the wheel here. It's been done in other communities. We think it's practical and can be applicable here in our community, and this is a first step to give that a try. And I think our law director hit the nail on the head in that if we find parts that the courts aren't happy with, we can fine-tune it at that point. So I'd like to thank everyone for their efforts here.
As would I.
Any other questions? No other questions?